What's up guys, this is Ed of PhoTK and we're going to run through our next tutorial today, which is we're going to be looking at X-Normals. It's a separate program, however you're going to use this for Maya. So this is going to be creating an Ambient Occlusion Map, which is basically a shadow texture. So I don't know if you can see that here, this has an Ambient Occlusion Map on. I don't know if you can see, but around these edges they're quite darkened, you know. And what I've done is I've got both my maps in Photoshop. These are without AO maps, and I've saved those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on part 1, assign a new material. Actually, no, I won't do that. Yeah, I will. I'll assign a new material, and I'll just go for a Lambert. Just keep it nice and simple. And then go to my color. So I'm now going to import the old one. And I'm going to show you the difference between the two, because this section of the house and this section of the house are exactly the same. However, I'm going to leave the AO map on this one. Sorry, just bring this over because I'm sort of doing two screens at the minute, but I'm only recording this one. So I want house shell 1 because that is my map for this piece. There we go. So now do you see the difference between the two? It's just quite sharp with its colours. You know, it's quite vibrant. There's nothing really happening, but to make it a bit more sort of realistic, you can sort of cast little shadows using an AO map, so you can sort of see the difference between the two. The colours will slightly change, they'll darken, soften a bit, but I prefer this look. So this is how we're going to do it. So if you looked at all my other Maya tutorials, you will know how to get something modelled, how to UV map it, and if you don't know what UV mapping is, it is, come up on the other screen. Just whack that checkerboard on. It's creating a map on each object, and what you basically want to get is nice squares. You don't want any distortion, because when you come to put a texture on this, you want, how do I explain it? If there's a distortion, then your picture will be distorted with it, so the quality will massively get reduced. Right, let me just pause this while my dogs quit barking. I think they're going to be good. Sorry about that. Right, so we've got our UV map, and I've gone into Photoshop. I've exported that. I've gone into Photoshop, and I've textured it. Yeah. So now what we want to do is we want to create the Ambient Occlusion Map, and the easiest way to do this is to download a program called X-Normals, and it's got a little symbol like that. It's free. So if you want to download that, go and install it. That's cool. And then we will open that up. And you have to bear with the old 1995 style program. And while that's booting up, we need to set this out ready to get the Ambient Occlusion Map. So what we need to do is, because I've split these all into parts, I've got part 1, which is one UV shell, which is this part. That. So that's one UV map or texture map, and then part 2 is this centerpiece, which is this part here. It's just a quick job, so obviously you'd make this fill the whole lot to get more resolution in that, but it was only a quick job, so it doesn't matter. So here we go. We've got our texture, and what we want to do is we want to export this part as an Fbx file, and you'll see why in a minute. So if we click on this part, and what you want to do is you want to make sure you come up to Mesh, Cleanup, and we've gone through the Cleanup tool if you've watched my other previous tutorial. Each of these meshes need to be cleaned up. So if I click Select Matching Polygons and then Faces with 4 more size shape and click Apply, you can see here that these areas need cleaning up. So I will just do this automatic, but I would always recommend doing it manually. But if you're really that stuck, then go for the automatic cleanup, which is this one, the top one. Clean up Matching Polygons. You can see it's added some more things. So just to double check that, we can come back into our object mode, select part 1 again, come up to our mesh cleanup, and then go to select again, and it disappears because there's no errors. So that's cool. So now part 1 is done. We can select it. Obviously I've got it in a group, and I can go to File, Export Selection, because that's the only thing I've got selected. Go to Desktop, and I'll go to Fbx Export. Now, if yours doesn't appear, then I'm going to show you how to get that working. But yeah, that's fine. So what you want to do is you want to go Fbx, come down to here where you go to geometry and go to smoothing groups. You want that selected, and then come all the way down to advanced options, FBX file format, and I put it for ASC2 and then FBX 2013. That's what I was advised doing because of something is less likely to crash or something like that. So I keep these all the same and they work fine. And then I'll choose somewhere to do it. So I'll just call it 12, just quickly random, put it on the desktop, make sure it's FBX and then export selection. And what that does is it exports your model as a 3D mesh, but it keeps your UV data, which is what we need for X normals. So this is the program, which is like, what? Horrible looking, but it does the job, so that's all we need. And what you want to do is you want to come to high definition meshes. Now, you will create normal maps inside of this as well, but we won't go into that just yet. We'll just learn how to do an AO map. And it says high definition meshes and low definition meshes. Sorry. Usually you would have a high definition one and a low definition one, or high poly, low poly. But because we've got an AO map, it doesn't matter. So we can just grab our FBX file. You can drag that in, and then it's come up 12.fbx. Come to the low definition and pop that in as well. There we go. And then we can come down to baking options, and I've got normal map selected. So you check everything off apart from Ambient Occlusion Map, or AO. And that's cool. And then it says size. Now these should be your texture sizes. So if you come into Photoshop and go to image canvas size, you either exported it out as a 512 by 512, 1024 by 1024, or 2048 by 2048. Now mine's 2048 by 2048, so I'll keep these the same. Yep, and then edge padding I'll whack to 0 because we don't want any edge to sort of come off. And then the bucket size, I usually put mine for 256. It's basically just like, I'll explain that to you in a minute, as you're going to see it. And then anti-aliasing I'll put ×4, so you get nice sharper edges. And then we can click generate map. Obviously you go to output file, sorry. So we can do that now. Go to desktop and we can just put 12 again. Save. Now whatever you save it as, it will say 12, but when it's rendered out, or baked, shall I say, as it's baked out, it will have 12 underscore occlusion. So it will have that prefix in it. So bear that one in mind. So you don't have to call it 12 ambient occlusion because it's going to have that name added to it anyways. So if you did, it'll be 12 ambient occlusion. You know, pointless. So we can just generate the map now. Okay, here we go. So this is a problem. Now, I love problems in tutorials because it teaches other people how to fix it. So if you've had this, the low poly model, C users, FBX mesh, pcube44 has no texture coordinates assigned, please export them. That means that this object, pcube44, doesn't have any UV data. So if we come back into this, pcube44, so that'll be in part 1. So let's find it. It's here somewhere. pcube44. Whereabouts is that? That's here. Something which is hidden. So that's fine. I can just delete that. Don't need it. Hit part 1 again. File, export, selection. Overwrite number 12. Export selection. There we go. And then come back to one of your high definition ones. It's fine. Just delete one and just re-drag it back in, and then it sort of refreshes itself. All the settings are the same, so then generate. See if we got another error. Yep, so pcube11, so let's do the same thing again. pcube11, which is here. Again, not really necessary. I haven't got any UVs on that. That's fine. I can hide it or delete it, and then do the same. Now obviously this is because it was a quick job, so I haven't put the effort into fixing these issues. Usually you would do that in the UV process anyway, so that would just be my mistake. But like I said, you can just easily re-import things, bacon details, generate maps, see if it goes. Most of the time it will be done first time. So there we go, it's now rendering. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this and I'm going to come back to when it's done. But you'd have to leave it a good amount of time for it. Depends on how complex your model is. So yeah, I'll replay this once it's done. Rightio guys, so here we go, we've got our map, and it's said here map generated at 823 seconds, so feel free to convert that to minutes if you want, but that's how long it took. And as you can see here, I can't make it bigger, you've got the white areas, which is nothing, and then you've got the black shadowed areas. So obviously the solid black is obviously hidden, say like the wooden beams and that. So you can see here, this is where the wood would be. So they're obviously black because the wood's in front of it, and there's no, the FBX has sort of calculated a shadow there because something's in the way. And you can also see these little areas around here, which is what I showed you earlier, is in these little bits here. So you can see the little shadows around the edges. So it looks quite nice. Now I'm going to show you how to put that onto your texture map. So close that all down, don't need that anymore. Open up Photoshop. We've got our textures, haven't we? So we've got Asphalt. And then what you want to do is File, Place Embedded, and then get your map. So 12 Ambient Occlusion Map. And this always comes on top of everything. Okay? Let me just delete the old one, don't need that. There we go. And then now we've got this in, what we want to do is we want to go to our transfer mode up here and then set that to multiply. Turn off that, and then what that does is it removes the whites, and it basically turns it into an alpha. And then you can see the shadows here. So obviously black is a shadow, white is nothing, anything in between is a degree of shadow. So you can have a nice gradient like I have here, from dark to nothing. Yeah, so that's how our ambient occlusion map is calculated. And then we can just go File, Save As, save it as a Targa, and then go to House 1 Final again. Oh no, House 1 Final. I'll just do that, don't matter. 24 bits it has to be, and then we can come back into this. Go to Part 1, assign a new material. Just whack a Lambert on it. A Lambert should appear up here. It's a bit laggy. Why is it laggy? What's it doing, man? Right, I'll try it again. Assign new material, Lambert. Yeah, of course it would appear now. And then we'll put the texture in. So go checkerboard, then File, and then it's that one. And there we go. We have our scene with our ambient occlusion map. So it's nice and easy to do. Obviously, the more you do it, the more you'll be experienced with it, with the problems and whatnot. So the main thing you need to remember is when you come to export your mesh, it needs to be cleaned up. So mesh cleanup, and it all needs to have UV data on it. Oops, sorry, my bad. So bearing in mind, I've got these windows here. Then if you can see there, these are windows, but I've kept them separate because the windows is just a plain glass texture. It's nothing to do with UVs. So I kept those separate so they didn't get involved with it. Because if I had these windows inside this group, they would appear as an object, and you can't really delete them because you need them. So you just keep them separate from the group so that when I select everything, those ones are left. So it's just little things like that, just getting used to it, have a bit of a play around, and now you can add some nice ambient occlusion maps onto your models. And then I'll see you next video. Peace.